Hello, everyone, and welcome to your 2020 Roadmap to Success. I'm your host, Linda Catalan, Executive and Career Acceleration Coach. And joining me today is Corey McCusker, Mental Performance Coach. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on this call today because this topic is so hot at this start of every new year. And this year is no different. So what is different is that I'm using Zoom to video record today's call. So you will not only get to hear Corey, but you'll also get to see both of us on this call. And also, as a reminder, if you registered for this call, you will receive the replay recording automatically so you can listen and watch this video again as many times as you like. So let me just quickly cover what we're going to cover on today's call. In today's call, you're going to learn the 3 key steps to a successful year. You're going to learn strategies to help you envision an ideal year, steps to help you plan your best year ever, action you can take right now to accelerate achieving your goals, and so much more. So now, before we get started, I thought I would share a personal story of mine, and I do have a confession to make. I've been a goal setter for my entire life, at least ever since I can remember. And that's what my father tell me all the time. Because I remember the very first time I got into trouble, actually. I was 2 years of age, and I decided that I wanted a tricycle. This was a big, lofty goal for me. So I set out on my own to buy my tricycle. I literally walked out of my parents' front door and started walking. I figured I'd eventually pass a bicycle shop where I could buy my bike. But remember, I was 2 and fearless. Well, 3 hours later, my parents and the police found me several blocks away from home, still looking for that bike. I had scared the life out of both of them. But they finally relented, and I finally did get that tricycle. Now, fast forward, year after year, I would make my list of goals and then one by one set out to achieve them. I got better at setting goals and even faster at achieving them. Whether it was climbing the corporate ladder of success, or marrying my wonderful husband of 38 years, or having wonderful travel adventures, I envisioned every one of those dreams and consciously and often unconsciously set out to manifest them along the way and create realities out of these dreams. And if I can do it, then each of you can too. And I know joining me today with Corey McCusker, she's made a few of her own dreams reality. So before we share some of the key steps that we're going to learn along the way today, I want to turn it over to Corey to share with the audience some of her personal experiences around goal setting and achieving. Corey, welcome.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks. I love doing these joint calls with you. So thank you so much for having me a part of this. I listened to you when you talked about, some climbing the corporate ladder, which we did together, and you were actually one of my key mentors in helping me excel. And I think we were both big goal setters, and we're able to make things happen. I think when you talked about travel, it reminded me of a time when I had put out there that I wanted to go to Italy, Tuscany especially. And you and I were actually at a workshop, and I ran into Debbie from Women's Travel Network. And the next thing I knew, I was becoming one of her tour leads, and my first trip was going to Tuscany. So that was one, it was definitely. And I think the last 3 years has been one of my biggest goals I've ever set. And I just at the end of 2019, I have just launched my first bricks and mortar, my Mutts with Manners facility. And that was the one that was a huge goal, lots of challenges, but now it's a reality. So I have to say that goal setting and making dreams become a reality, there definitely is a way to do it. And I think both of us have been able to prove that we can achieve big goals. So um, personally, I love setting goals. I mean, I'm a list maker. I love checking off those things. And I really like challenging myself. And that's where, when working with my clients, it's really making sure that they are reaching for their big goals too. So I've got many more successes that I could share, but I think, that Tuscany trip always stands out in my mind, how I made that come to fruition and how it came about so different than what I thought. And then, as I said, the Mutts with Manners facility being opened, that was been a dream, I'm going to say, for like 15 years. And now it's a reality. So,
Wow.
yeah, definitely. Goals can be big and they can be small, but when you achieve them, there's a really great sense of satisfaction too. So,
Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say today's topic is important, let me share with you why I believe it's important. It's said that when you don't have a clear vision of what you want, any road will get you there. And it's true. I mean, I've seen so many people who, perhaps didn't have a career goal or didn't have a personal goal. And then 20, 30 years wonder how they got to where they did, and, become victims of their journeys as opposed to manifestors of their reality. So it's important to have that clear vision for sure. Um, Another reason is why you would want to goal set is because time is precious. And so if you already know what you want, and even if you don't know what you want, why wouldn't you want to at least figure out what you want? Because the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you'll actually get to figure out how to get it. So that's important, is you don't want to waste precious time. Life is short, relatively speaking, and time is valuable. A lot of people go through life kind of letting life happen to them rather than being the conductor of their life. And so, it's not uncommon at the age of 50 or earlier to wonder, how the heck did I get here? And so sometimes they blame the conditions of their life, and it was their parents' fault, or the company they worked for, or the spouse, or yada, yada, yada. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just want to say that you can change that. You have way more control over what you can achieve in your life than you even give yourself credit for. So stay with us on this call right now, because stay with us right to the end, because we're going to talk about how to ensure that you set yourself up for success in 2020 so that you can make it your best year ever. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by asking Corey some questions, and because I know that this is a real strength of hers. So Corey, what do you believe is the first most important step in ensuring success in 2020?
Linda, have you ever daydreamed?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people daydream. I think a lot of people are just sometimes, wondering. And those I'm talking about the daydreams that really get you excited, that fire you up, because our mind is an incredible thing. And what I like to do is take those daydreams and turn it into the visioning your success, visioning your future, imagining what the possibilities are. And I think the first step is really starting to envision what it is that you want.
Cool. So if you could extrapolate on what you mean by visioning,
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean by?
So, okay. And so vision, a lot of people will relate it just to seeing the sight. So when I'm talking about daydream or visioning your success, I want you to kind of really just think about what it is that you want to achieve and what is the impact it has on you personally. How does that affect you? How does it make you feel? What is it that you would see? What would you hear? How would that affect your life and also the lives around of those involved with you. So what I mean by visioning is really getting crystal clear on what it is that you want to achieve. What is your goal, and what is the impact that that would have on you? And I think that's really the first important step, is really getting a clear vision on what it is you want, and what is that goal or that success that would impact your life in the way that you want it to be.
Cool. Now, we know that there's lots of ways and exercises that people can take to kind of create that vision of
Mhm.
success. What are some, ways or exercises that you may take people through?
If people have never really done the goal setting or done the envisioning, what I do is I get them to always take pen to paper and write down what it is you want. I mean, you and I know both as coaches, sometimes we ask people what are their goals or their dreams, and they go and tell us everything they don't want. So even if that's where they're going to, they've got a negative mindset. We're going to say, okay, you know what, write down the negative and then write down the opposite of what it is. Okay, if you don't want that, what is it that you do want? So I think one of the easiest exercises is getting people to kind of take the pen to the paper and kind of write it is. And some people may look and generalize. You can actually take a specific area for you. You deal with a lot of career. I deal with a lot of athletes. So I'm going to say, okay, what is it that you really want from your performance or your career this year? And let's write it down. And I think that's one of the first steps I get people to do. There's many other ones that I can that I use too. So, but I'm going to say the first thing is really writing down what is your actual goal and what do you want
Cool.
to achieve.
And so what kind of tools or tools have been most helpful to you in
Okay.
creating your own success?
One that I think people are very aware of or they have heard of, I mean, if you go back to The Secret or various things, is vision boards. So what exactly is a vision board? A vision board is something that you create that has images that represent your goals or your focus. I do one every single year. It has been powerful for me. I kind of have I mean, if you looked at my vision board in the middle, I have a picture of Wonder Woman, because that's where it's like, okay, I kind of want to be. Well, this latest journey, I felt like I was Wonder Woman. I needed all those tools, and that power. So I kind of create what it would impact. And I look at the business and I get very clear on what are the various things that would be on that vision board. And if I look at that vision board, what should happen is it kind of reminds me of my focus, inspires me as to where I'm going. So the vision boards are one thing. I've actually got into doing digital vision boards, which are actual mind movies. And I've actually shared that one with you, and I do it with my clients. And that's an actual digital movie that you create that can be anywhere from a minute to 8 or 15 minutes, where you would put in images similar to that of a vision board, but you put in images that are going to inspire. And then you actually, on top of that, you find music that also. So I'm trying to, with the mind movies, you're actually tapping into more senses. Whereas the vision board, it's just a visual. The mind movie is kind of creating the sound that kind of inspires you, the music that inspires you, the visions that inspires you. I talked about the writing down the list. The other thing is big, and I think both you and I do, is the journaling, which kind of keeps you on track with the steps that you're taking in order to, and the journey that you're going on. I mean, I just recently went back and reread my journal about this journey I've been on with the Mutts with Manners project. And it reminded me of where I started and where I ended up, and all of the challenges and how they overcame. So I think journaling's a really great one. And one thing I do each year, and I actually just grabbed it because it was in my office. So every year with my family or my clients, we get a white canvas board, like a small one, let's say not as big as 8x10, but maybe a 5x7 or a 4x6 that you just get at the dollar store. And I get them to come up with words or statements that is going to kind of be the focus for the next year. And then I get acrylic paint and we put it on our hand and we kind of stamp it. And I've actually got the one from
Oh,
2018.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was when I started my business plan for Mutts with Manners. I wanted to make it happen. So that was like, okay, you know what, make it happen. I also have on there, I don't know if you noticed, Brian Tracy's Eat the Frog. There was a lot of things I was scared to do. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to eat the frog. I'm going to do all those, write the 34-page business plan that I thought I never could write. And it was like, okay, that I never thought I would be able to do because I just wanted to get to the goal. So there's lots of little things. Those are some that I just like to share. But I think if you have something that is visual that can keep your focus. So on those hard days, going back to it, I actually, a story I can just share quickly is I remember Sidney Crosby lost the Stanley Cup to another team. So what he did is he took a picture of the Stanley Cup and he put it in his room because he wanted to make sure on those days he didn't feel like working out or he didn't feel like doing something. He would look at that Stanley Cup and be reminded of what his goal is and that he had to get up and he had to push himself harder. So, you know, having something visual that inspires you to keep going is one of the things that have been key for me. And so those are just some of the tools or things that I do to keep my clients or myself going.
Awesome. I want to ask you actually about some examples with your clients, but before we go there, I had a thought, and you were talking about daydreaming at the beginning, and I just wanted to kind of remind the audience that daydreaming is quite common, and I find that sometimes people tend to daydream more in the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
So they
agree.
catastrophize, right?
100%. Yeah.
Catastrophize what could happen.
Yep.
And so I just kind of wanted to put it out there as well that you kind of have to censor yourself that,
Mm-hmm.
by daydreaming, by having catastrophizing your daydream could actually manifest itself as well.
Yep.
And so it's really important that you censor, even what you're daydreaming so that it's,
100%.
the
Yep.
most positive. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there because you mentioned daydreaming is kind of a great place to start. And you also mentioned journaling and I'm with you. Like what I do, maintain a journal that an ideas journal essentially
Mm-hmm.
that every time I think of something that that I want, I just put it in my journal. And, could be a trip that I want to do in the future, like, oh, I want to go to Egypt, or, oh, I want to, someday do this. And I just, put it in there. And so then when I go to do my planning at the beginning of the year, I go back to my journal and I say, oh, what were some of those things that I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do?
Mm-hmm.
And which one of those things can I make a reality this year? So,
Okay.
right, because part of
Yep.
it is
Yep.
it has to be realistic, but you're free to dream, and
100%. Yep.
right, so why not? And so that's really good. So I want to kind of come back to maybe you could share some examples where you helped some of your coaching clients create a vision of success.
Yeah. So I work with athletes and I work with a lot of successful business owners. So with the athletes, we've had some pretty big dreams. I mean, as far as the Olympics, two of the athletes that I worked with had dreams of being on Team Canada, and both were successful. So again, it kind of goes back to that Sidney Crosby story where I would actually get them if there was a trophy that they were wanting to go for, or something that they wanted to achieve. We would actually get a visual that would be in their room that they would look at, that kind of motivated them. I think I'm actually going to get you to share a story. I think you had told me about your son Devin on the football or some kind of championships where they put it up and put their faces or something in. Do you remember that story? You said that they wanted to win the championships or something, so they put it up and they put their faces in versus, and it could have been you, or I'm pretty sure it was your son. But there's another thing is where you put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
So a lot of people they want to achieve it, but then they get so hung up on the how. And
Yes.
they'll knock themselves out of the before they even get there. So I want them to take themselves to the actual success of achieving the goal, and then let the how kind of come together for them, because it's funny how things will show up. It's like that Tuscany trip for me. Did I ever think of, one, it was going to be the expenses were going to be taken care of. I was going to be doing something that I love, coaching and leading a team of women, and going to a place that I dreamed of going to. And then I also, as a child, had a dream of going to Africa. But going back to my clients, is we really get crystal clear on the goal, and we'll do vision boarding, or we'll do that mind movie, and we'll get really clear on the specifics of how that makes you feel. What does that mean? And that means, you know what, if they do get that promotion that they wanted, is their family goes on a trip to where they always wanted it to celebrate. So we're putting all of the pieces to get it really fired up with inside the person. So I've had, as I said, I've had two of my clients be on the Team Canada under 17. I've had some of them that were looking for NCAA AA scholarships. So, you know what, we would put the scholarship actual certificate, or the letter that they would kind of see themselves getting, and we would make something up. So it's really taking them to that point that they've achieved it, so they can feel what success is like before they even get there.
Nice. Very good. All right. So we know that creating a clear vision is only the first step. It'll get us about 20% of the way there towards meeting the goal. And so we should probably move on to talking about the second step in the process.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Well, the second step in the process is of achieving a successful year is actually what we call planning. And so planning really is the critical piece. In fact, I would say from a, if we look at it practically, from how much time do you spend on visioning, how much time do you spend on planning, how much time do you spend on actioning, you actually spend the most amount of time on the planning piece of the process. I would say if the visioning is 20%, planning is probably more like 60% of your time and effort, and then actioning is another 20%. And your example, Corey, of actually writing the business plan is a really good example, right? Because you had the very clear vision of what you wanted to achieve, and then you had to write this 34-page document of how you were going to achieve it, and all the who, what, where, all the specifics of it, just so that you could then get financing, and you could actually start to take any action with it. So it's a very important part in the overall process.
And so, Linda, you talk about, so again, let's dig a little deeper into the planning. So it's about all those little steps, right? So when we say planning, it's that business plan, it's sitting it down, it's giving it the time. And when you say 60% of the planning, or of the if you look at the model of the success is that actual planning part. And I speak for myself, and that thing is I don't know if I would have been able to do that without the support in that too. So what are some of the tools or exercises that you assist your coaching clients in the planning process? Because I really want
actually, maybe I want to just step back a bit and just talk about, well, what do we mean by planning, right?
Because, please do.
Yeah, planning really is the process of making or carrying out the plan. So just to kind of be clear on that, it is the process of establishing the goals and the processes to get the goals. And so some people refer to it as a scheme or method of acting, doing, proceeding, making, developing in advance, all of those things. It's essentially making a sketch or an outline to achieve whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. And within available resources.
Hmm.
because that is an important part of the actual planning process. Is we can dream big, and we can, dream like on huge scales. When we get to the planning process, then we start to set out an outline of how to achieve it, and some of that means within certain time frames, within certain budgetary constraints. That's when we sort of the reality, or the rubber meets the road
Hmm.
in terms of figuring all that out. So
Hmm.
that's an important part of it. And so when I think of planning, I think of the process of thinking about the activities that are required to actually achieve the goal. It's the
Yes.
thinking part of the goal achievement. Yeah.
Great. That's a really good explanation there too.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to say, you mentioned resources and thinking and taking that time and energy to really think about all of this stuff. That is required, and the resources that you need in order to get to it, because sometimes it can be a lot of resources. It could be people, it could be things you need. So that part really that process of going through that planning is really key. So yeah, so again, I asked some if you can share some of the tools or exercises that you use to assist your coaching clients
Yeah.
in that whole planning process. That would be great if you could share some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the tools that I developed myself that I use with my coaching clients is what I refer to as a goals worksheet. And actually, it's one of the components. We'll talk about it a little bit later, in terms of making it available to anybody that's interested in working with us later. But essentially, it's kind of my planning worksheet for once we've gone through the
Hmm.
process of visioning what the goals are, then actually mapping it out. So what's important about that goal? Why is that important? And where is it in terms of the priority? Like, how important is it relative to other goals, relative to other things we have going on in our life? And then actually identifying what are the different activities, the different steps that you need to take, and actually prioritizing those, and actually determining what's the key step you need to take. Also setting affirmations and intentions. So writing what we call a SMART goal is one step in it. And so that's an important part. And if you recall, the SMART goal definition: S is for specific and simple, M is for measurable and meaningful, A is actionable, and as if now, um, R is realistic, and T is timely, so having a timed component to it. So I kind of, we incorporate the SMART aspect of goal setting into it, but then also we create an intention, an affirmation, to kind of keep it top of mind. So you've got your vision board that maybe provides you a vision, constant vision imagery around your goal, but then you also have an affirmation that affirms what your intention is around that goal every day. So that's all covered in the goals worksheet. But another process or tool that I sometimes work with, it's a simple exercise. I'll share it with you, and that is I get out a pad of Post-it notes,
Hmm.
and sometimes I color code them so they use yellow or pink or green or blue depending on the project, etc. And so the first thing that once we have a goal or a vision is to identify everything that you would need to do, or everything that you'd need to do or know about or research, or just basically a brain dump of anything and everything that would get you closer to that goal. And I would write each one of those down on a separate Post-it note. And the reason why I use Post-it notes is a very practical reason, because then you have to go and figure out, well, do I need to do this activity before I do that activity? And you can start moving them around. So you can literally, put your Post-it notes on a wall or a whiteboard, or your window, etc. And then you can start to move them around so that you start to develop this chronological order of how to do them. It also makes it easier in that you can prioritize it into a timeline then. So that becomes a really important element. And then of course, setting dates around each item, a start date, an end date. You can then consolidate it into a spreadsheet, a work document. I'm making it very complicated here, but it really isn't. It's a simple way to actually make your goals kind of come to reality. So that's a second way. The goals worksheet, post-it notes. Another way is to actually maintain a goals journal, and actually, kind of journal about the progress you're making in there. I really espouse having kind of a multimedia approach to goal setting. So, Corey talked about, visioning, the mind movie. So having that visual aspect is very important, but also writing it down, writing your goals down, saying them out loud every day is important, because again, you're connecting all your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, you're engaging your senses in it. And I think that's a very important part. So the more you can kind of engage all your senses in it, the more likely you will achieve it. There's also another tool out there. I know I'm covering off quite a few tools. It's a big, the planning process is a big part of the process. There's a tool out there, productivity tool called, and it's plannerpads.com. And it's a productivity tool that kind of helps with identifying kind of the goals, daily activities, and then actually scheduling them into a daily planner. So again, the planning process is quite is the biggest part of it all, and those are just some tools and exercises that that you can kind of use in the planning process. And certainly, if you were working with me or another coach, they can really kind of declutter some of that overwhelm that you might be feeling in the planning process to really simplify it. It really can be a simple process. Okay. And so basically, what I've found that has been most helpful to my own success is the goal setting and the goal setting and the action planning. So the planning process, it's just, I always say that the goal setting process, the visioning process is using your conscious is using your unconscious mind, but using your conscious mind to actually rationally create the goal. So you're thinking about the goal and what you need to achieve it. But oftentimes it's your unconscious mind that's the goal getter. And so having the conscious piece in place and all of the visual, auditory, etc. Pieces to support it is important, because it reinforces the goal. So I want to share with you just some examples of how I've helped some of my coaching clients in this process. And so oftentimes a client will come with a challenge or a problem. I had one client who was in a bit of state of overwhelm, who came to work with me. And in her case, it was really kind of declutter. I'm going to say decluttering. It was really kind of getting to the heart of, what was it that she most wanted out of life. And so she was extremely busy professional, and was kind of reacting to life is probably the best way to describe it, reacting to whatever kind of came her way. So if it was work, she was reacting to clients, whether it was personally, professionally, etc. And she wanted to really kind of be more in control of her life. So we started with, the kind of goal setting. We looked at every area of her life. So we looked at, What does she want in her career? What does she want financially? What does she want spiritually? What are some of her goals as it relates to her significant other, her friends, her family, her fun and recreation, and her health? And so we looked at all of those aspects and we created goals for every one of those things. And then, as I said earlier, we used the goals worksheet to help her work through kind of identifying what are the things that she could do, what were the priorities, and then what's the one key step that she could take right now. And working with her for quite a few months, she came back to see me about a year after we had gone through the process, and she had bought a new home. She had sold her other home. The home she had bought was much more in line with her lifestyle and what she wanted out of life. She had reorganized some things at work. She had lost 20, 30 pounds, and so she was just in such a better state and more in control of her life. So that was one example of how we use this process to really help someone take control over their life. And in that case, working with another client, she had a goal to actually, a very specific goal about leaving her corporate job and actually starting her own business. So we worked around specifically around her career and all of the things that she needed to make sure she had in place before she actually cut ties at work. And, in terms of preparing herself in her new business, in terms of launching her, in terms of launching her, in this case, she was opening up a coaching practice. And so she was, so we really kind of got her set up so that she actually was in a position where she had 50% of her client base before she actually made the leap from corporate. So, Corey, I know we just lost you there for a moment, so it happens. But so I've just kind of been sharing with the audience not only the tools to assist with coaching clients in the coaching process or in the planning process, but also helpful ways to things that have been helpful to me, and also things that have been helpful to my clients in working.
Awesome.
So I just want to, summarize in that, visioning is the first step, as we said, and Corey did such a great job explaining the visioning process to us. Planning is the second step, and as I said, it's a big part of the overall process. And before we get to the third step, I just want to share with the audience a special offer that Corey, you and I have designed just for them. So, so Corey and I got together and we decided that between the two of us, that we have so much knowledge and experience to offer anyone who's interested in creating and achieving their goals in 2020. So we thought this was a good time for me to let you know about our 2020 Roadmap to Success package. So just to be clear, the 2020 Roadmap to Success package is for you if you're currently struggling in any way to get clarity around your goals, or if you already have a clear goal, but you just don't know how to achieve it. Or you may want to get even better at setting goals or better at manifesting your goals. So maybe you're clear on your goal and you have a plan, but you're not very good at either setting the goal or manifesting the goal. So this will definitely help you with that. Or if you're thinking maybe about leaving, or if you're thinking about, leaving your job, starting something new, anything that you're contemplating. And so maybe this would be a way to help you kind of uncover what do you really want and what are the steps to getting there. Or you simply want a professional lens on your goal and the plans to achieve it. So this is for you if any of those things apply. Now, if you can relate to any of these, here's what we're offering. we're offering you a limited time opportunity to work with Corey McCusker and myself, Linda, through the 2020 Roadmap to Success package. Now, here's how you will benefit from the package. You'll have a visioning session with Corey to help you get laser focused on your goal or goals for 2020. You'll then have a planning session with me, Linda, to help you get super clear on the actions you need to take to achieve your 2020 goal or goals. You'll have the opportunity to complete the goals worksheet or to map out your plan of action. We'll work together on that. And you'll also receive an accountability journal to help you stay the course in 2020. So let me just summarize the 2020 Roadmap to Success package. It includes a 1-hour recorded visioning session with Corey. It includes a recorded 1-hour planning session with me, Linda. It includes the goals worksheet to assist with the planning process and an accountability journal to help you stay the course. So this limited time opportunity, and I say limited because it's only available for purchase to the end of January, so January 31st, 2020. Now, it's available for the low price of only $297. So if you're interested in securing one of these time-limited 2020 Roadmap to Success packages, here's how you can access it. In the newsletter that you would have received from Corey or myself would be a URL which will direct you to where you can purchase your 2020 Roadmap to Success package. In addition, you'll receive follow-up emails with the replay recording of today's session and a link to purchase the 2020 Roadmap to Success package. Now remember, if you're interested in one of these packages, I encourage you to buy now before the offer expires on January 31st, 2020. I just want to be clear that the 2020 Roadmap to Success package is for you if you're currently struggling and you want clarity around your goals, or you have a clear goal already and you just need help to figure out, the planning piece of it or the actioning piece of it, or you just want to get better at setting goals or get better at manifesting goals. Or you simply want us to kind of have that double check where we're reviewing your goals and your plans. If you can relate to any of those, please take advantage of this limited time opportunity to work with both Corey and myself. Corey for 1 hour on the visioning and me for 1 hour on the planning. You'll benefit by having the visioning session with Corey to help you get laser focused. You'll have a planning session with me to help you get super clear on the actions you need to take. You'll get the goals worksheet and also the accountability journal. Now, again, it expires January 31st, 2020. And the URL will be on the newsletter you would have received already from either Corey, if you're on Corey's email list, or on my newsletter if you're on my newsletter list. And in addition, you will also receive the URL with the replay recording email. The email will go out and will have a URL attached to it as well. So now, just because you're purchasing it by January 31st doesn't mean you have to take advantage of it right away. You will have ample time in February or March or even April to actually take advantage of the session that Corey's offering and that I'm offering. But the important piece is to get the package purchased by the end of January so you can take advantage of this limited time opportunity and this limited pricing. So, Corey, let's move on to talking about the third step in the process. And maybe you could share with us what that actually is.
Okay, Linda. So the third step, I'm sorry about my little mishap there. My
Okay, it
internet's
happened.
gone. So yeah. So the third and final step, which is really important, is the actually taking the vision, taking the plan, and actually actioning it. So if we take a look at how we make things happen, is you can't just dream it or envision it. You actually have to really take that next step and do the action for it. So I think a lot of people get caught up because they're not really sure what to do or what is the action, and actually having somebody to help you along the way is something that's benefited me, and you're one of those key people. So a lot of people will get stuck, whether it's in the visioning, the planning, or the actioning, and that's where you really need that help, where a coach can be very helpful. And taking that first step sometimes is scary. I can even speak for that with my own personal experience that I just went through, is not knowing how to even make your big dream come to fruition. So no matter how scary it can be, it's really taking small steps at a time. It's really kind of taking it and breaking it down into, okay, what it needs to be done today. What can I do today that makes me move one step closer? And just going about it. And you know what? We're going to make mistakes along the way too. And it's being okay with the mistakes that you're making, because there's learning always to be had. And I talk about this big dream. I have had so many learnings in the last year, and I'm 55 years old, and I thought I knew it all and learned it all. But it's, you know what, it's going through the actions, the steps, and reflecting, learning, and then moving forward. And so just one step at a time, keeping that focus, going back to the plan, because there's, again, you may make a plan, but you might have to take a different route. This whole package we put together is called the Roadmap to Success. You're going to have detours. You're going to have different things that happen. And just knowing that each action gets you closer. So an action can be making a phone call. It can be actually executing a part of the plan, looking at the different pieces of the plan, and then saying, okay, this is what we're going to work on today, or this week, or this month, or in the next quarter. And then breaking down that big plan that you have into those small action pieces. So I said about some people get stuck, whether it's on the vision or the planning or even the actioning. And us as coaches or having coaches, that is so helpful in helping you go through that journey. So in the self-discovering step, let's say the visioning to, I'm going to say the self-discovery step is whether, well, actually, I'm going to pass that on to you, because I know this is a piece that you're really good at. So just talk about one of the things where the planning action, and how as a coach you have been helpful.
So basically, in as a coach, part of what we do is to help the client self-discover, and to, kind of walk them through the visioning, whether it's the visioning piece, the figuring out the values piece, what's most important to you, what do you really want. This is an aspect that the coach can really help in. The establishing a plan that actually identifies and establishes who, what, where, how, what if, coach can help. As an accountability partner, to hold you accountable, to keep you motivated, to keep you on track. Sometimes you might need a kick in the pants. Sometimes you need a cheerleader to kind of, rah-rah get you excited, motivated. And sometimes you just need a realist so that you take action and you keep taking action. So if you want, this quicker, more fulfilling journey in goals and goal setting, then consider a coach to assist you in this process. Both Corey and I have had a ton of experience helping many, many clients go through this process. We've also been through this process. We live and breathe this stuff. And so I encourage you to kind of consider hiring a coach for this very important part of creating your 2020 roadmap to success. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to wrap it up at this point. This is probably a good time for us to wrap up. There's so much more we can say about visioning and planning and actioning. And I hope that you will take advantage of working with the two of us so that we can help you on your journey to success in 2020. So we've come to the close of today's call, but it doesn't mean that we've come to the end of this intriguing topic. There's a lot more that we could cover on this topic. And if you find yourself overwhelmed by any of it, then I really encourage you to reach out for some help. If you know you're ready now to work with either Corey or I, or both of us through the package, then feel free to reach out to either one of us. You can reach out to me at linda@resultscatalyst.ca, or you can reach out to Corey at corey@corymccusker.com. So let me just repeat that. It's linda@resultscatalyst, CATALYST.ca, or corey@corymccusker.com, COREY@COREYMCCUSKER.com. So feel free to reach out to one of us to purchase your 2020 Roadmap to Success, or to consider hiring either one of us for your coaching needs. And if you do go ahead and purchase the 2020 Roadmap to Success, please do so before the end of January 2020 at the low price of at the low price of only $297. And you'll be glad you did, because you'll get the full advantage of both of our expertise for that low price. So wishing all of you success in 2020. Happy New Year. I want to personally thank you so much for being on today's call. I want to thank Corey for joining me on today's call as co-host. And this is Linda Catalan, Executive and Career Acceleration Coach, and Corey McCusker, Mental Performance Coach, wishing you a fabulous day and a fabulous year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me, Linda, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.